This year has been full of ups and downs. We had some laughs, we had some tears, but overall, I think it's safe to say that 2017 has been a really interesting year. A lot of bad things happened, like politics, but then also a lot of good things happened, like video game releases. So I'm here to help break down for you the top 5 video games of 2017. All right, let's do this. Before we get to the actual list, just a couple of honorable mentions. These are games that were really good, but didn't quite crack my top 5. First off, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I don't even really know how this game exists. It's basically a turn-based tactical shooter in the Mario universe mixed with the Rabbids of Ubisoft. I mean, what the hell is this game? That being said, once you actually play it, it's really fun. It's essentially XCOM, but brighter, more colorful, and a little bit more accessible. I had a lot of fun with this game. Really creative, interesting stuff going on. The puzzles in between the battles are kind of ho-hum, but the actual battles and gameplay of this game are really good, and if you like, turn-based tactical shooters, you should check this one out. Next on the list, Resident Evil 7. This game really surprised me. I'm not really one that cares much about survival horror games, but this game I really enjoyed playing. There's a really tense atmosphere. The first-person perspective really made it more immersive and made you sort of feel the terrible little details going on around you. The story was interesting and there was some nice twists and turns. The combat was pretty good. I like the fact that you get some weapons, you defend yourself. It's not like Outlast where you're just running into lockers or Alien Isolation where you're just running and hiding. This game you get a little firepower and you get to fight back. It's an interesting game. The next honorable mention, Dead Cells. This game is still in early access on Steam, but it's a really good side-scrolling Metrovania roguelite game. The graphic style is similar to Castlevania Symphony of the Night on PlayStation. It's just a fun game with tight controls, good levels, good enemy design, the combat's fun, and just overall, you just have a good time playing it. Another honorable mention is Nidhogg 2. Nidhogg 2 is a side-scrolling sword fighting game, and that's pretty much it. It's just 1v1, you get a sword, you get a dagger, you get a broadsword, or you get a bow and arrow, and you just fight to the death. You try to get to one side while the opponent goes to the other. It's amazing in its simplicity, but the music's great, the art style is actually really fun, really gory, and just a really good game to play against one of your friends. Another honorable mention, quick shout out to Tekken 7. I don't play a ton of fighting games, but Tekken 7 brought me back to the days of Soul Calibur and sort of the goofier fighting game, and a lot of characters, a lot of customizable appearance options. Just overall, that game's pretty fun. I would recommend Tekken 7 as well. Now that all the honorable mentions are out of the way, let's get down to it. The top 5 video games of 2017. Yes! Coming in at number 5, Splatoon 2, a really interesting take on a team shooter. It doesn't really emphasize your kill-death ratio. It really isn't about sort of who you knock out, although that still is satisfying. This is a game where you just have to cover as much of the level with your own color as you can, and you try to cover more ground than the opponent. Very simple, but at the same time there are some great weapons, big variety of weapons, really colorful, good music, great game to have on your Nintendo Switch. If I had to knock it a little bit, some of the UI stuff is kind of frustrating, like some of the matchmaking stuff. You can't really just have a group of friends together, party up and go play. You kind of have to join each other's game and hope that there's an open slot. There's no party system. But when you put all that aside and you actually play the game, it is super fun and definitely one of my top 5 games of the year. Coming in at number 4, we've got Cuphead.
Well, Cuphead and his pal Mugman, they like to roll the dice. By chance they came on Devil's Game, and gosh, they paid the price.
Oh, Cuphead, it's so great. Just thinking about this game puts a smile on my face. It has the most charming, amazing, detailed, hand-drawn art style I've ever seen. The art style on its own just is an amazing accomplishment, and it's really reminiscent of the old sort of 30s, 40s cartoons. It's just a fun, super difficult platformer where there's a lot of really creative things going on, some amazing boss fights. The game kind of centers around boss fights, but it's just one of those games that absolutely stands out on its own. It's not the type of game that I necessarily put a ton of hours into, but for the experience that it was just absolutely incredible, and anyone who's a fan of platformers or side-scrolling shooters or just a fan of animation, check this one out. You can't miss Cuphead. I would highly recommend it. At our number 3 spot, we have Super Mario Odyssey. It should come as no surprise that this was on the top 5. I mean, this game is awesome. I feel like there's hardly much to say about it that you guys probably don't already know. It features the same kind of control scheme that you would expect from a 3D Mario game like Mario 64, but the level design and the variety of enemies you can use is just really good. And when I say enemies you can use, I wasn't misspeaking. You actually throw your hat and take over the mind of an enemy, and you control an enemy for a while. Morally gray, but it's definitely fun to do. So the fact that there's all of these sort of gameplay options, there's even some really fun 2D sections of the game where you kind of morph back into the old 8-bit Mario. It was just a complete delight. A lot of tributes to old Mario games. The music was top-notch. A lot to do. There's so much to collect. I think there's over 850 moons or something to collect. There's customizable costumes. There's even a dog with a hat. I mean, this game has a dog with a hat. What more do I need to say? If you have liked any of the 3D Mario games in the past, you definitely need to check out Super Mario Odyssey. It's really hard not to have fun when you're playing this game. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds at the number 2 spot. This game is amazing. I've definitely played my share of team-based multiplayer shooters, but PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has just a flavor and a style of its own. It's a battle royale game where there's 100 players playing at the same time, and as soon as you're dead, you're done. Your round is over. So it's a last man standing. The last person out of 100 standing gets the chicken dinner. It's just made for some of the best, most tense, most exciting moments of gaming in 2017. It's a pretty brutal game. If you get killed early, you don't feel good about it, but it just makes you want to hop back in and try again. There's a really high skill ceiling, and I'm definitely not even close to there. It's so tense. It's like the scariest game I've played this year when you're just looking around, not knowing if you're about to get shot in the head. It's so tense. And then if you ever get a victory, it is amazingly satisfying. I see him.
All right, Cole, it's just 1v1.
Got it! Oh, yeah! Motherfucker, yeah! Yeah! That one felt good, man.
Dude, I can't believe we won.
Oh, yeah.
Well, got it.
I've only gotten a victory with friends. I haven't done it solo. I'm still on that quest. I really hope to get there someday. It would potentially be number 1 on the list if it weren't for a lot of technical issues. I know it's technically still in early access, but by the time you watch this, maybe it won't be. But there's still a lot of rough edges on this game. I have a pretty good computer. It barely runs. I have to run everything on very low. I get a very choppy frame rate. The game crashes quite a bit. So it's pretty rough around the edges. That being said, what a cool game. I'm definitely going to keep playing this one for the foreseeable future. The number 1 game for me this year is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I can't really say much more about this game that I didn't already say in my previous YouTube video, but holy shit, this game is awesome. It's just one of the best versions of an open world game that I've ever played. Just the ability to climb anything you want, and then you can use your paraglider to fly anywhere you want. Just the exploration in this game is unbelievable. The graphic style is really neat. There's a huge variety of enemies and weapons. A huge game with so much to do. I definitely didn't do everything there was to do in this game. You can really get experimental with the physics and the power-ups that you get with the addition of the weather effects, sort of the ice and the fire and water and lightning and how that affects everything. Really interesting dynamics in this world. The combat feels good. I just can't even say much more about this game. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on Legend of Zelda, definitely check out my video on this channel. It's not a perfect game, but all of the good things easily outweighed the bad. Just absolutely loved it. So there it is. Out of the games I played, those are my top 5. I'm sure that you 100% agree with my top 5. I'm glad that we're all in lockstep here and that you completely agree. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my other stuff at youtube.com/KirkLinden or twitch.tv/KirkLinden, where I do a couple of live streams a week, so check me out over there. Bye-bye now.